Welcome back to the Critics Corner. I'm Andrew Branca with the Waxahachie Sun. I'm here with my friend, colleague, and fellow movie aficionado, Mr. David Dunn with Southlake Style Magazine. And we have got oh God, it's a movie. It's a film.
Is it a treat, Andy? I know you're about to say we got a treat for you today.
Maybe a treat, like when you go to your doctor to get the, exam when you're 40, kind of a treat. I don't know. I mean, the enema kind of treat. I don't know. It was bad. Wow, Benedict Cumberbatch, bro, what were you thinking? This week's review is on the Netflix dumpster fire, The Power of the Dog. Why don't you tell our audience what this film was about, because I have no clue what it was about, because it was just really that disconnected and insanely bad. So maybe
I'll fill audiences in. Don't worry, Andy. I got this. So
appreciate it.
The Power of the Dog is based off of, I believe, an 1836 novel by Thomas Savage. Sorry, 1967, off by a millennium. And it tells a story about this pair of brothers who are ranchers on this piece of property, Montana. One of the brothers gets married to a widow whose husband is recently deceased, and one of the brothers doesn't like this. The brother Phil Burbank, played here by Benedict Cumberbatch, basically gets jealous. He feels threatened by his newly wedded wife and her son, and tensions erupt. Kind of some unsettling kind of sparks fly, or I guess don't fly in the case of this movie. And yeah, things build up into a very anticlimactic and surface level ending. Andy.
Yeah. Anticlimactic, that's a great word, because that was this whole movie. Anticlimactic. What a great description of this movie is. You've ever been in church and had communion, unleavened bread. That's what this movie is unleavened bread. Oh my gosh, this was just so bad on so many levels. I mean, I guess if you're in a relationship with Kirsten Dunst, who plays Rose Gordon in the movie, and you're Jesse Plemons, that's what you get for having a relationship with her. You get a movie. Is that what is going on now in Hollywood? You start dating someone and having their kids, and you get a movie on the side. I don't know how that works. I mean, the guy from Breaking Bad in the Western, that was really great. I mean, geez. So I hate this movie.
So Andy, tell me about the movie. Did you like it?
No, it was terrible. I blame you again, Mr. Dunn.
Okay, look, before you blame me, because I know I threw out this suggestion. This movie has been making the round. Let me just say as a disclaimer, first of all, this movie has been making the rounds on the film circuit. This has made the top of top 10 lists out of the year. You go to RogerEbert.com, they rate this their #1 movie of the year. You go to Watch Mojo, they put this in their top 10. You go to Peter Travers, Richard Roper, Chris Stuckman. This is on so many year-end best of lists. I saw it was on Netflix. It won Best Drama at the Golden Globes. So I was like, oh.
Well, that tells you something that's a piece of crap if it wins Best Picture and Golden Globes. And if Roger Ebert was still alive, he'd probably say this was a horrible movie.
Well, you never know, man.
Never know.
He likes some weird stuff.
Man didn't like Tommy Boy, and he was weird. So, I fault him for that.
I will say though, okay, so starting with the positives of this movie, I don't know.
Positives? What positives are there about this pile?
I can actually see a lot of positives.
Okay, well, you
let me dive into it. I'll dive into it.
Well, you sift through the manure of this film here.
So, so positives. First of all, I like the cast. You mentioned Jesse Plemons. You mentioned Kirsten Dunst. We mentioned Benedict Cumberbatch. I actually really like the cast in this movie. I think Benedict Cumberbatch in particular, he plays a role I've never really seen from him before. He plays, I don't know how to say this word in a PG-13 setting. He plays a D-bag. He plays one of the biggest D-bags I've ever seen in a film. And he's just such, in another movie, I think you consider him the villain, and maybe he is the villain of this story. I don't really know. The movie is very nuanced in that respect, to where you don't really know who you're supposed to root for or who you're supposed to really despise. But I will say, just from the central character standpoint, he is a very despicable character. You really learn to hate him very, very quickly.
Oh yeah, I agree with you. The character that Benedict Cumberbatch is a really awful person that he plays Phil Burbank in the movie. But the problem with it is you kind of sort of like him later on. So, you know, either you have Darth Vader, but you don't turn him into, you know, Betty White. I mean, come on.
Yes, absolutely. And actually, on that note, I think you can say that about a lot of the characters in this movie. You learn to like them and dislike them at certain points. And I did find that interesting in the movie. I wouldn't say it was good. I did find it interesting. You know, in the beginning of the movie, he's a huge D-bag. He's a jerk. You really learn to hate Phil Burbank's character. And towards the end of the movie, you do see a little more of the nuances in his character. You do get to see how he's humanized a little bit more. You do see a story-based reason why he's a D-bag, but too little too late. It's throughout the movie. But but that's the case with all the characters in this movie. You know, Kirsten Dunst at the beginning is very, very sympathetic. At the end of the movie, she's a lot more dependent, a lot more whiny, and a lot more sarcastic and unlikable.
Drunk.
Yeah, pretty much. And then Cody Smith-McPhee, I would say out of all the characters in this movie, Cody Smith-McPhee has the most layers, I think you could say. At the beginning of the movie, he's very effeminate. He's very much the underdog. He is like, I don't want to say the gnat, but he's like the bunny, right? He's like the sweet little bunny, the sweetest little bunny you just want to cuddle in your garden, right? And then the end of the movie, the bunny sheds its skin. You're like, oh, that's actually a very venomous snake lying underneath that very soft exterior. So the characters had layers. The actors did a good job portraying the nuances of those characters. I really appreciated that. I also liked some of the technical elements of this movie. I thought the cinematography by Ari Wegner was very, very well done. It was kind of really good. It was kind of very vast and encompassing cinematography that really perfectly captured the countryside. It captured the isolation, it captured the loneliness, it captured the gravitas of it all. So I thought the cinematography was very good. And the music, I actually really, really liked the music from Johnny Greenwood. It's very simple. It's not over the top. It's plucky. It's this very simple, like guitar strumming sort of a theme, but it sticks out with you. It stays in your mind, and long after the movie's over, it leaves an impact on you, despite how small scale it is. So I appreciate those technical elements. I appreciate those performances. I think those elements by themselves are done very well in the movie.
I'm glad you don't. I'm glad you do, because I absolutely don't. It was just an overall horrible experience.
So, and I think this is where we're going to agree. What was horrible about the experience?
There was no story. There's no concise story. There's no direction. There was no beginning, middle, and end. It was just like watching toast in a toaster. It was was bland. It was unleavened bread. It was like watching that painting called American Gothic for 2 hours. I hate this movie.
Really?
And it'll probably win Best Picture at the Academy Awards because it's so bad. This is how it goes. This is your Academy Award winner, folks, right here. The power of the dog, right here. It's gonna sweep everything. I swear.
Um,
You heard it right here, folks, from the Critics Corner. Power of the dog. This year Academy Awards.
do we even need to do an Oscar video now? I feel like this is gonna be it right here.
I don't know, probably. I don't know. Jeez, it's so bad on so many levels. I mean, I'll give you Benedict Cumberbatch. Yeah, his performance. Yeah, it was good when he was just playing a really despicable character. But dude, if you're gonna play Darth Vader, play Darth Vader. Just play the bad guy. Don't switch it up.
Well,
and Kirsten Dunst's character, if you're gonna play the victim type person that's kind of reserved, play that. Don't switch around roles. And
so I'll actually disagree with you on that point, Andy. I actually like the fact that the characters are layered and they're not as one-dimensional as other characters are. Actually, some of my favorite films last year, we talked about King Richard. We've talked about Spider-Man No Way Home. I don't know if we've talked about The Last Duel, but what I like about a lot of movies from the past year is the fact that the characters are flawed, they're fallible, and you like them, but you also acknowledge their weaknesses.
No, I don't mind them having layers. I don't mind them having weaknesses or flaws. But when it makes sense in the entire context of the thing, not just say, hey, let's do this and change this up to keep everybody busy. No, this doesn't make sense.
So here's where I'll disagree with you on. I'll disagree with you on that there isn't a story in this movie. There is a story. There is a 3-act structure. There is an arc between the characters. Actually, I think I would argue that there's an arc for most of the characters. So at the very, very bare bones level, there is a story, there is an arc, there is a change for a lot of these characters. I do appreciate that. Where I think we agree is that the story is not done well at all.
And spoiler, I was glad when one of the main characters died.
And I think that's the biggest flaw. I think there's several flaws in this movie.
There's hundreds of flaws in this movie.
I think the biggest thing, and there's several things, but I think the biggest thing that sticks out of my mind is that it doesn't know how to engage the audience. Like, this is written and acted and performed like a frontier novel. Like, you're sitting in your high school class and you're reading a book about the old frontier West, and you kind of have to reflect on the themes they're writing in book format. Now, I will say this. I think The Power of the Dog in book format would have been more interesting, because in word format, you can go into more of what characters are experiencing. You can kind of delve deeper into their thoughts and what they're thinking and all of that stuff. But movies are not books.
Yeah.
They're different. It's a visual medium. You have to show what they're experiencing, what their thoughts are, and everything. And if you can't do that through a voiceover, which I think this movie should have, I think this movie should have done voiceovers in quite a bit of the picture. Instead, what you're left with is just a lot of characters just staring at each other, very long pauses, very long, dreary sequences where nothing happens, and you have this plucky music playing in the background, and you're left having to scramble this scene and like, okay, how do we piece this together? What happened? Why did it happen? Like, and I noticed this is a trend for a lot of movies this past year. I noticed there's a lot of movies where filmmakers are really putting a lot of the weight of translating the story on the audience. And I don't think that's fair. I think some movies, that's fine to do that. Like Inception, I think did a really good job of balancing between both worlds. Tree of Life, Matrix, Whiplash. There are a lot of movies where I think audience engagement is important, but they don't have to in order to understand the story. Like, you can understand the story at surface value and not understand the deeper implications and still get a rewarding experience out of it. Power of the Dog is not that. Power of the Dog is like, okay, we're just going to toss these events at you. You try to decipher characters' motivations, their actions, what they mean to the other characters. You dissect it. Have fun. And I think that was a bad call. This is a movie. This is not screenwriting 101. We're not here to go to class. We're here to get a dramatic experience. And this movie just didn't give that.
I definitely agree with you on that point, that some books don't translate well to screen at all. I mean, they're just terrible. You know, in a book, like you said, there's a lot of opportunity for the author to provide backstory, to provide character analysis, to provide context and depth. This was basically kind of a left up to the audience to say, hey, decide your own movie here, you know, kind of pick your own adventure kind of a story here. And, you know, and I also agree with you on the fact they needed a narrator. They could have hired Sam Elliott to do a lot of good stuff because he had that bravado Western voice. And I think that would have maybe helped it a little bit, not maybe save it, but helped it. But if you want to see a good Western movie that takes place in the early 1900s, 1920s, go see the 1994 film Legends of the Fall. It's an epic Western. Brad Pitt, Anthony Hopkins, Aidan Quinn, Henry Thomas is in that. Come on, better movie right there. And better story. Oh my gosh. Similar kind of themes. Brothers, family, working on the ranch, drama.
Yeah. And it is
Legends of the Fall. Check it out. Great movie.
It is
unlike this movie, which is horribly bad.
Yeah, and it is funny you point that out because, Legends of the Fall is an earlier movie, and a lot of earlier westerns are obviously done differently with different graphics and technology and all that. They're 1,000 times more engaging than this is.
Unforgiven, another great modern Western movie.
Yeah, like Unforgiven was released in the 90s. It was kind of considered like the last golden age Western of the era. It was made in the 90s. It's still amazing. It's still one of the best Westerns ever made. It's still one of Clint Eastwood's best productions, both in terms of directing and acting.
And heck, three modern Western movies. Open Range, which was really good. 3:10 to Yuma, which is a remake, and also the remake of Rooster Cogburn. I like the original a little bit better, but the remake wasn't bad.
Yeah.
And those are three good Western movies.
Yeah.
Which in the last 15 to 20 years. They're so much better than this.
Yeah, and I will give a devil's advocate for The Power of the Dog in that it's a different kind of Western.
Oh, come on, really?
Well, no, listen to me. It's not a Western in the aspect of you got your guns, I got mine, let's shoot at each other. You know, it's not like that, right? But I don't know what you're doing there. but it is a Western in the aspect of that it's psychological, it's drama. Western's more of the setting than it is the genre. So I'll do the devil's advocate in that respect, and that's a different Western. It doesn't change how boring it is. It doesn't change how dull it is. It doesn't change how it fails to engage the audience. Like I've seen so many movies where it's driven squarely just from drama, just from performances, just from the pure screenplay. Like actors just locked in a room together, whether it's Carnage or Mass or any other sort of locked in type of drama. They're 1,000 times better than this movie is.
Well, and I'll give you the fact that it is a different type of Western format. It's not a Tombstone. You know, I would say Legends of the Fall is a comparable comparison to that because it's that long drama, almost Shakespearean type of story kind of thing. Yeah. But it was bad on a whole. Not Legends of the Fall, but Power of the Dog.
And circle back on the note of the narrator. You mentioned Sam Elliott. I think, and what's really weird is we talked about there being a narrator to this movie. Movie had a narrator at the very beginning. Yeah. Cody Spit McPhee gave an opening narration, was a great narration. It was haunting, it was eerie, it really set the tone for the movie, and it really informed where his character decisions came from. That was a great narration. Excellent opening lines of dialogue for the movie. Now, if they had kept with that, and he was the narrator throughout the picture, and you could keep audiences informed what was going on, I could see this being a more rewarding experience.
Yeah.
But as it stands, it's just a unbearably long and slow and just slog of a drag of a film which goes on and on and on and does not reward you. I will say the description of this movie, this is on Netflix. The description of this is on Netflix is a domineering but charismatic rancher wages a war of intimidation on his brother's new wife and her teen son until long hidden secrets come to life.
Charismatic? Charismatic?
That one description, that one like 10-second description is more interesting than the rest of this movie.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
I will also say that, the guy that did the narration at the beginning of the movie was great, and I wish they would have had more than that. But that was his only spot of narration in the movie. That was it. There's nothing more. Also, and I think he would have given a lot more context throughout the movie about things going on, like a narrator is supposed to do, and it would have improved it.
Also, what were the long-awaited secrets in this movie, Andy? I mean, I know what the secrets are. I know what you are. You know what the secrets are. But the movie was building up like it's some giant revelation, and you get the revelation. You're just like, okay.
Well, consider we've beaten this dog to death. Let's give this a rating. What do you, out of 10? What do you give this?
Objectively speaking, and this is interesting. Objectively speaking, I give the movie a 5. But personally,
why do you have to always be the nice guy? Just
look. This is two different. I'm giving two different scores here. If I'm talking off of objectively how well the movie is made, I'm giving it a 5. If I'm talking about how much I enjoyed it, like a 2. So let's go down the middle there, the middle of the road, 3.5. I hear people tell me that this movie is a slow burn. It's not a slow burn. It's a slow sizzle. And
it's not even an ember.
And the payoff is just not there. This is a slow sizzle, ember, whatever you want to call it, without the payoff. That's what this movie is.
No, I'm not going to be as nice as you. You are way too nice to crappy movies. Far too often, sir. And I'm giving this a 1.5.
Oh, come on. It's not a
1. Yes, it is. No.
You would put this at Home Sweet Home Alone. You would put this at Space Jam.
I'd rather go see Space Jam than go see this again.
Oh, sorry. This movie, at least, it has an interesting intention. It has interesting ideas. I'll reward it for that. Space Jam: A New Legacy is derivative as hell, and it is I don't even call it a new legacy. I call it a new cash grab.
I'm not saying it's a great movie either, but at least you have the Looney Tunes to lighten things up a little bit in this film, where this is a 2-hour film, which felt like 4.
Yeah, it felt like Zack Snyder's Justice League, but nowhere near as interesting.
Yeah, no. 1.5 easily.
That's fair. I certainly can't argue with you on there. I will ask you though. There's a scene in this movie where Benedict Cumberbatch is with Cody Smith McPhee, and they're looking at the mountainside, and they're like, "Can you see the dog?" Did you see the dog, Andy? Did you see the dog in the mountain?
I did see it.
I didn't see it. So
I saw it.
Take down another 0.5 point. It's a 3.
Okay. Well, yeah, if you don't want to waste your time on something crappy and just artsy fartsy that's just really just a pain in the rump,
God.
Don't go watch this movie on Netflix. It's just terrible.
It's such a waste of time.
Yeah.
It's free, and it's still a waste of time. Like, why is this on so many best of lists, Sandy? Why did this win best drama? Why is this on so many best of lists?
Hollywood reviewers smoke crack.
they either smoke crack or they're on Molly, and I don't know. You have to take something to enjoy this movie.
They don't understand what good filmmaking is, and they've been so far removed of what good filmmaking is. No, yeah, that's the reason why they smoke crack and they're dumb.
It's an interesting thought experiment, but it is not an interesting film, and it is not a good film,
and it's not worth your time.
No, definitely not.
Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Critics Corner. We will bring you back something more interesting next week that is worth your time and your hard-earned dollars to go out to the theater or to watch it at home. So that's going to do it for this week. If you have any thoughts, questions, or suggestions, give us a shout out in the comments or send us an email or shoot us up on Facebook at the Critics Corner. That's going to do it for today. I'm Andrew Branca. This is my colleague David Dunn. Y'all have a great rest of your day and a wonderful weekend.
Have a wonderful weekend, everybody.